Smith Show starts right now.
Everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio and ESPN News, 250 plus markets across the United States of America, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM Channel 80, plus ESPN Radio simulcast over the live national television airwaves of ESPN News. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Cars, homes, boats, motorcycles, RVs, and more at Progressive.com. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Let me say this. I'm not in a very good mood today. I know normally you're expecting to see me on the airwaves sounding so excited, ebullient, just filled with fervor and passion, and I'm just so enthralled with everything that's going on. That is not how I am feeling today. How I am feeling today is very, very worried. Now, I want the record to show that I have prayed a lot over the last week. Not to say that I don't pray, because I pray all the time, but rarely like I have this past week. We understand why. The NBA draft lottery show is tonight. Tonight is when the ping pong balls will bubble all inside that little tube, and we'll find out who's going to get the number one overall pick, which is undoubtedly, unquestionably, undeniably going to be Duke's Zion Williamson. That 6'7" dude, 280 plus pound Skywalker, man-child. In terms of physical specimen, the most dominant thing we have seen since LeBron James. These are facts. They cannot be disputed. John Moran is going to be something special. He's a consolation prize. He's a consolation prize. DeAndre Hunter, consolation prize. RJ Barrett, consolation prize. Cam Reddish, consolation prize. There's only 2 prizes in this draft, and one undeniable, unquestionable prize that stands head and shoulders above them all. It is the physical freak that is Zion Williamson. And I'm here to tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. The New York Knicks are one of 3 teams with the best chance to land the number 1 overall pick. And I'm not that damn excited about it. I'm just telling you what I know. I'm very, very concerned. I'm very, very worried. I can't deny it to you. I'm just looking at the NBA's 2019 mock draft. Got Zion Williamson, John Moran, RJ Barrett, Hachimura out of Gonzaga, DeAndre Hunter out of Virginia, Kobe White out of North Carolina, Jared Culver out of Texas Tech, Darius Garland out of Vanderbilt. I've heard good things about him. Jackson Hayes out of Texas. Of course, Cameron Reddish out of Duke. Nasir Little out of North Carolina. Bruno Fernando out of Maryland. Bruno Fernando. I'm not knocking him. I'm quite sure the brother can play. Didn't see much of Maryland this year, but if I'm in the NBA and I'm drafting somebody named Bruno, I'm already at a loss. This ain't wrestling. Bruno San Martino or somebody. Bruno, he better be good with a name like that. Let me say this to you. Why should I believe? I know that everybody wants me to be just the bastion of hope. But why should I be? These are the New York Knicks we're talking about here. Am I supposed to believe that in a league where once upon a time, if you were the worst team in the league, you had a 25% chance at the number one pick? And by the way, that team happened to win the last 4 lotteries. But in an effort to de-incentivize teams from tanking, the league gave the 3 worst teams an equal 14% shot at the right to draft the number 1 overall pick. And oh, by the way, let's look at these odds. Because see, as we're going to sit up here, we're going to talk about things quantitatively. We're going to talk about things problematically or probabilities. We're going to get into all of that. Let's look at this. The New York Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Phoenix Suns all have a 14% chance at landing the top pick and a 40.2% chance at landing the top 3 overall, or one of the top 3 picks. The Bulls are next in line at 4th with a 12.5% chance, along with 36.6% odds at the top pick. The Atlanta Hawks are number 5 at a 10.5% chance, with a 31.6% shot at a top 3 pick. Then here comes the Washington Wizards, John Wall's team. A 9% chance with a 27.6% chance at a top 3 pick. Then you got the New Orleans Pelicans at a 6% chance at the number 1 overall pick, a 19% chance at a top 3 pick. The Memphis Grizzlies are next with a 6% chance and a 19% chance at a top 3 pick. They're tied with Dallas as well, also with a 6% chance and a 19% pick. And then there's the Timberwolves with a 3% chance and a 9.9% pick. The Los Angeles Lakers have a 2% chance at the top pick, a 6.7% chance at a top 3 overall pick. And then you have the Charlotte Hornets and the Miami Heat and the Sacramento Kings all tied at 1% for the top overall pick and a 3.4% chance at a top 3 overall pick. Ladies and gentlemen, why should I believe the New York Knicks are going to luck up and get Zion Williamson? Is it because Patrick Ewing's going to be on the podium? Is it because Patrick Ewing is going to sit in the place of Dave DeBusschere, who was seen pumping his fist when the New York Knicks landed the number 1 overall pick? Remember that? When they landed the number 1 overall pick in 1985? Now, Dave DeBusschere, God rest his soul, passed away at age 62 in 2003. Okay, he'll be a legend with the Knicks forever. He's one of the 50 greatest players in NBA history. He's a Hall of Famer and obviously delivered championships to the New York Knicks. Played alongside Willis Reed and Bill Bradley and Walt Frazier. Okay? We also beat the Lakers once in the finals. We get all of that. But he will forever be remembered in New York when he was the one on the podium, because he was the director of basketball operations for the Knicks during the 80s when they drafted Patrick Ewing first overall in 1985. And Dave DeBusschere was the one when it was announced that the Knicks would have the number 1 overall pick for that center out of Georgetown. He just pumped it, almost jumped out of his chair and pumped his fist. Ladies and gentlemen, Patrick Ewing is a great, great player. Patrick Ewing, excuse me, is somebody that is absolutely positively special. I love Patrick Ewing. Forever a Knick. Career 21 point per game scorer. Inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2008. Was a fabulous player. We'll always love Patrick Ewing. Patrick Ewing never delivered me a championship. Why should I believe he's going to deliver me ping pong balls that's going to give me the number 1 overall pick? Somebody's got to say it. Why am I to believe that he's going to be able to deliver me ping pong balls when he couldn't deliver me a championship? Albeit because I would love to say it was because Jordan was standing in his way. But remember, so was Akeem Olajuwon. He had 2 years while Jordan was gone. Didn't happen. One, they lost to Houston in Game 7, courtesy of John Starks' 2 for 18 performance. But Olajuwon, Akeem the Dream, was something special against Patrick Ewing. And then we know what happened the next year with the finger roll against Indiana that bounced out. So let's be very, very clear. Let's be very, very clear. I love Patrick Ewing. But if this is an effort to believe that the spirit of Dave DeBusschere and that experience from 1985 is going to descend upon the Knicks organization now, I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. And I'll gladly admit that I'm wrong. Because I love Patrick Ewing. And I love the Knicks. I mean, but what am I supposed to believe? I mean, what is next? You're going to tell me that James Dolan is going to sit up there and just descend his grace upon us? Am I supposed to believe this? Huh? I mean, this is look, man. I am suffering. It's hard to take. How many years? I'm talking to you as listeners of this radio show, as a native New Yorker, but I gotta admit, Jonathan, I gotta admit, John Winthrop, I'm talking to God himself. I need prayer. I need my prayers answered for just once. Please, please, please. Just one time when it comes to these Knicks. Last time the New York Knicks won a championship, I was 5 years old. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm 51. I was 5. I was 5. I was 5 years old. Do you understand the magnitude of my drama? And damn it, I'm not just talking about myself. I'm talking about New York Knicks fans everywhere. We have suffered. We have suffered. And I understand everybody's not a Christian. You got Muslims out there. You got Jewish folks out there. You got Catholics out there. You might have Buddhists out there, for crying out loud. Everybody pray. If you're a Knicks fan, it is time to come together and get on our collective knees and point to a source higher than ourselves and say, my goodness, for one time, good Lord, please, 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 let us get the number 1 overall pick, because the Knicks need something. Because if this doesn't happen, you know what's next, right? We're left. Because let me tell you something. Let me stop that. Let me stop. Let me reel in myself emotionally. I'm trying to be cool. It's just hard. I'm tired of suffering. I'm tired of suffering. I tell you something. If the New York Knicks don't get the number 1 overall pick, you know chances are they probably ain't gonna get the top 3 either, right, John? One or two things are gonna happen. Either the New York Knicks end up with the top 2 pick, and we're sitting there waiting, like salivating at the mouth for that one dramatic moment, okay? Either that happens, and then we get disappointed because somebody else ends up with the number 1 pick instead of the Knicks, or the New York Knicks really show you what life has been like in the James Dolan era when they end up falling out of the top 5. Because they got a 40% chance at a top 3 pick. They got a 14% chance at the number 1 pick, a 40% chance at the top 3 pick, a 60% chance at a top 5 pick. Best odds at 58%, a little bit more than 58% with the number 5 overall pick. How much y'all want to make a bet the New York Knicks end up with the number 5 pick or lower? Just to torture us. 5 is the lowest, I'm sorry. How much you want to make a bet that the New York Knicks, because they ain't going to go lower than 5. How much you want to make a bet that the New York Knicks end up with the 5th overall pick? This is what I'm praying won't happen. And I'm trying not to speak it to existence, but I'm trying to be honest with my listeners. And see, for me, I want Zion Williamson in one of 2 places. I want him in New York or I want him in LA with LeBron. Because I love the Staples Center. I love LA. And that 2% chance that the Lakers have of getting the number 1 overall pick, man, go for it. Get it. Get it. Please. Unless it's at the expense of the Knicks. I want the Knicks to get the number 1 overall pick. But if they can't get it, let the Lakers get it. I don't want Zion in Cleveland. God forbid he ends up in Phoenix. That's basketball they plays. We need him in a major television market. According to Forbes or whomever it is that wrote about it, Zion Williamson, the money that he would make in New York compared, I think Will Kane mentioned it on First Take this morning, my show on ESPN every weekday morning from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern, 7 to 9 Pacific. I think Will mentioned that he stands to make 30 to 40% more money if he were in New York than if he were, say, in Atlanta. But here's the deal for me. I want him in LA if he can't be in New York. I want him in that kind of market. I want to see Zion Williamson on television. And I'm not talking about SportsCenter, highlights. I want to see this. And this ain't about people that got the NBA package. Everybody can't afford it. Even though I would encourage you to get it if you can. This is about seeing this dude. Look, the basketball world is just a better place when Boston, New York, or LA, or a combination of 2 of the 3 or all 3 are relevant. I throw Chicago in there too, but especially those previous 3 markets that I mentioned, LA, Boston, New York. And if the New York Knicks don't get Zion Williamson, y'all know where that leaves us, right? Y'all know where that leaves Knicks fans everywhere, right? Don't you know? It leaves us sitting around, literally hoping and praying that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving truly do end up coming to New York, which I'm told they will. It truly leaves us in that realm. And that is what, as much as, listen, if Zion doesn't come, but those 2 come, fine. New York Knicks will be fine, especially if they got Ja Morant as the consolation prize, because I like him. The problem is, if you don't get Zion, you don't know definitively what's going to happen with KD and Kyrie, which means that with the merchant, because you know what the New York Knicks are going to do, right? New York Knicks ain't going the second tier route. And I support that, by the way. They're going to go get Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, and people like that. If the New York Knicks can't get A-listers to come to New York, then they're just going to build through the draft. That's what they're going to do. And they're going to stay the course. And they've gotten okay. Steve Mills, Scott Perry, and those boys, they've gotten okay from James Dolan to do that. Because if you ain't going to land that box office attraction, if you're not going to land that superstar tier 1 dude that can fill the seats of Madison Square Garden with a degree of legitimacy we haven't seen really since Patrick Ewing has departed from New York, where does that leave you? Where does that leave you? That's what we're talking about here. And if you're the Lakers, let me tell you something right now. I'll tell you what would be very interesting. First of all, Zion Williamson is a no-brainer. And to me, Zion Williamson is an elevated version of Julius Randle, who the Lakers should not have lost. But having said that, I would like to say this. If the Lakers end up with Ja Morant, you know what I love about that? What you going to do with Lonzo? Because all of this noise about Lonzo, how much you want to make a bet the Lakers push him out the door the second they get the number 2 overall pick, you know it's going to be Ja Morant. And if they get Ja Morant, you think they're going to prioritize keeping Lonzo after that? So it's a whole bunch of interesting storylines potentially that are going to be out there. And I can't wait to discuss them. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. I am praying. Ladies and gentlemen, this show is nationwide. But damn it, I'm a native New Yorker. And I'm a diehard Knicks fan. And I've died hard on many occasions. Might as well call me Stephen Cat Smith. Because I got 9 damn lives. Because that's how many times the Knicks have killed me. Okay? This is what they do. And James Dolan, look, he disgusts me with his petulance towards fans. Can't take any damn criticism. Grown damn man acting like a child. Fan tells him, trade the team, he gonna get the man thrown out of the garden. That's just petty. But I will say this. James Dolan has done a lot of good by quite a few people. He's very charitable and philanthropic. He's very giving to people that are employed by him. And the people who work for him swear by him in most instances. Maybe not all, but certainly most. And so when you look at it from that perspective, it doesn't matter whether you're white, black, or whatever the case may be. If James Dolan is fond of the work that you do for him, he takes care of you. Takes care of your families. James Dolan has been a very, very good man to a lot of people. My issue with him is that he is truly a child when it comes to absorbing criticism. He pouts visibly. He takes petty and unnecessary steps of retribution towards people he doesn't like. He needs to stop and grow up. But if it's true that he's left basketball operations to Steve Mills and Scott Perry, the New York Knicks have a chance. Except we're not interested in chances anymore. We're far more interested in results. And that's what the New York Knicks are going to have to deliver. And it will go a long way towards that if they get the #1 overall pick tonight. Something we all should be praying for. Because I know I have. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. That was Straight Talk Wireless. Everything for less. Only at Walmart. Stick around. Don't touch that dial. Mark Stein, our NBA writer extraordinaire for the New York Times, former worker right here with ESPN. He'll be on the show with us to start off hour number 2. Looking forward to talking to him. But for now, I'll get to your calls and more in a minute. Sit around. Don't touch that dial. Got the Western Conference Finals Game 1 starting tonight at the Oracle between the Golden State Warriors and the Portland Trailblazers, by the way. Steph versus Dame. CJ versus Clay. All of that and more coming up. Don't touch that dial. Listen to Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, people, I'm here to tell you about Zelle, a quick and easy way to send and receive money right from your banking app. Not sure what to get someone for their birthday, graduation, or housewarming? Send them money with Zelle, a truly one-size-fits-all present so they can buy whatever they want. The money goes directly into... I want to let you know something right here, right now. Joel Embiid and those tears you saw him streaming down his face and that pain you saw sifting through his body like that, it may end up being the best thing that ever happened to you. You see, to me, Joel Embiid, and it's not to disrespect him in any way, but to me, Joel Embiid became a man last night. Because let me tell you something right now. Ain't no more airplane flyings, joking around, chirping. When you lose a game 7 and you lose it in that magnitude with Kawhi Leonard drilling a jumper over you that bounced in and out of the rim and then into the rim. About 3 or 4 bounces. Let's count them right here. He goes up, clock 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 bounces. And then goes into the rim to win the series. To win the series. Let me tell y'all something right now. That's some pain that is not going to leave Joel Embiid for a very, 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 very long time. And when he comes back on the court next year and he's playing, he's going to remember every aching moment. And when that happens, ladies and gentlemen, could you imagine a monster, a beast, like Joel Embiid, and I say that obviously complimentary, could you imagine him even more focused? How he'll be if he's healthy? If I'm the 76ers, I leave this man alone. I make sure, work on his knees, work on his back, get him as close to 100% as you can possibly get him in the best condition of his life, and then unleash him. Because nobody can stop Joel Embiid. Nobody can stop him. And what you're going to see with Joel Embiid is a man on a mission coming back. I think it's going to be to the benefit of the Philadelphia 76ers. Make no mistake about it. And I think it is something that would bode very, very well for them moving forward.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
Welcome back to Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. ESPN Radio recognizes National Military Appreciation Month, brought to you by Navy Federal Credit Union. Proudly serving the armed forces, the DoD, veterans, and their families for over 80 years. Federally insured by NCUA. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Reminding you again right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Starting off hour number 2, my buddy, my former colleague here at ESPN, now NBA writer extraordinaire for the New York Times, the one and only Mark Stein, will be on the show with us. Looking forward to talking to him about something. So let's get right to it. Until then, gonna get to the phone calls. Got a lot of people wanting to talk. You know my position. I want Zion in New York first, and if not New York, LA. I'm not interested in him in a damn place else. And no athletic phenom needs to go to Chicago because everything can be compared to Michael Jordan. Everything. And that ain't gonna work. It'll work for a hometown boy like Derrick Rose, but that's about it. Chicago fan base is phenomenal, by the way. They sell out every year, every game, even when their team stinks. I have mad love and respect for the fans in Chicago. They're really, really great, but I don't want Zion there. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Michael. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Michael. What's up?
Hi, Stephen A. It's Mike.
I just said, Michael. How you doing?
I just had a quick question. Say Zion were to go number 1 to the Knicks, what would his role be essentially when KD and Kyrie comes along?
If Zion was to go to the Knicks?
Yes, what would his role be?
He'd be your post player. He'd be your interior offensive weapon. Because with KD and Kyrie on outside, whether it's driving to the basket or making noise from the perimeter, you would need a low post presence on the offensive end of the floor. And that would definitely be Zion Williamson's 280 plus pounds. Simple question, simple answer. Have a nice day. Andrew, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, Steve, like you, I'm on my hands and knees praying that Zion gets to New York number 1. Having said that, what role would he play in getting any marquee free agent to the Garden?
What role would what? I'm sorry, repeat that question?
What role would he play in getting any marquee free agent to the Garden?
Believe it or not, it can't hurt, but I would tell you from what I'm hearing, it doesn't matter. I've been told that Kyrie and Kevin Durant are coming. I was asked to use the words 95% because it ain't done with these guys until they're done. Kyrie is temperamental. In the case of Kevin Durant, he's sensitive. I'm not saying that in a negative way, but he's sensitive from the standpoint that the nostalgia being in Golden State, winning championships, et cetera, with Golden State clearly in position to give him more money. They've got a state-of-the-art arena that's going to open next season that is off the charts. Nothing like it has ever been seen from what I'm being told. They're winning championships. They're printing money. It's Silicon Valley. Even though he knows a Steph team and he wants to leave, chances are he's coming to New York. But I've been told to use 95% because, quote, you never, ever, ever in life can say anything is 100% with Kevin Durant until it's actually done. That's what I've been told.
All right, well, hopefully we get Zion too.
Yes, that's what we're hoping for. Thanks a lot, man. Rick, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, my brother. How are you?
Stephen A., listen, man, I'm praying also, brother. Listen, I got a question, though.
Yeah.
What do you think with the cap money that we have? What do you think? Do you think that it's a good scenario to try to get Jimmy Butler with Kyrie and
No. The Knicks do not want Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is considered a tier 2 star. The New York Knicks are either looking for marquee headline superstars or they want to build through the draft. They don't want, they want to build through the draft and free agency where you bring quality talent, but not the kind of talent that you got to dole out max dollars to. New York Knicks are not interested in that. When it comes to Jimmy Butler, you know who everybody's competition for Jimmy Butler may be?
Who's that?
Portland. Damian Lillard's trying to convince him to come to Portland.
That's a good look for Portland if that was to happen.
That is a good look. That is a good look. But Philadelphia obviously wants to keep him. And they've got to prioritize keeping Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler, I'm going to go as far as to say this. Are you ready for this, Rick?
I'm listening.
Jimmy Butler would be a fool to leave Philadelphia. Everything about Jimmy Butler's life personifies what Philadelphia is all about. Hard-nosed, blue-collar, grab your lunch pail and go to work kind of town. When you know Jimmy Butler's story and what he's endured and what he's overcome in order to get to where he is today, nothing personifies that more than Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And now that he's been there and he's established himself, Joel Embiid may be your best player. But when you talk about the pulse of Philadelphia, who's emblematic of the heart and soul that personifies Philadelphia, what name do you come up with?
I come up with Charles Barkley.
No, I'm saying present day player, bro.
Oh, present day player.
Yes. I'm saying it's Jimmy Butler. See, Joel Embiid is a superstar talent. Ben Simmons is a jump shot away from being that. But in terms of the mentality and the approach, the hard-nosed approach, the candor, the willingness to call it like you see it, ruffle feathers, all these different things while grabbing your lunch pail and waking up 5:30 every morning and going to work and making sure you're in peak condition and all of those different things. Who personifies that better than Jimmy Butler for the Philadelphia 76ers? Who's that guy?
Nobody.
And that's why you have to keep him. He's a priority over Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris is a really good player. I hope he gets paid. He didn't have the greatest postseason, certainly not the greatest series against Toronto. I want him to get paid. I got a lot of love for the brother, but I'm going to put prioritizing Jimmy Butler ahead of him in Philadelphia. If you can keep them both, keep them both. But if you have to choose between one or the other, you choose Jimmy Butler. It's that simple.
That's cool.
All right.
Tobias would be good in Brooklyn, though. That's a good look for him,
that's
too.
a good look, and they need somebody that can shoot. So you're right about that. Appreciate the call, man. Thank you. Let's go to Joe. You're live with Stephen A. Tell me something, Joe.
Hey, I hear that all the time.
Yeah, because of Bad Boys. Because of Bad Boys with Martin Lawrence. Yep.
I agree with that. I agree with the Zion. I feel like New York Knicks is destined to really finally do something because they've been down so long and they're a basketball team. And another thing, yesterday I was watching your show and you had said you really just automatically made Milwaukee go to the finals. And I'm like, I don't really see. I feel like the Raptors is really can't compete with Milwaukee.
You know what my problem with the Raptors is? I think to beat Milwaukee, you got to do it in 6. The Raptors are not going to Milwaukee and beating the Bucks in a game 7 in Milwaukee. I don't believe it. You got to take them out in 6. And I don't think you're going to take the Greek Freak out in 6 when the first 2 games of the series are in Milwaukee. I don't believe it.
Yeah, they play as a complete team. They kind of like the same team, but 34 is way different on Milwaukee. But I feel like the Raptors can get them, though.
Like I said, if they had home court advantage and the first 2 games of the series were in Toronto, I think you would have a better, stronger argument. But the fact that they got to go against Milwaukee and Milwaukee lost game 1 against Boston, I don't see that happening 2 series in a row. I don't see it. I think they'll be ready for Toronto tomorrow night.
Kawhi something different. Kawhi got a little bit of Jordan in him, Kobe in him. Kawhi.
Yeah. But where's his help? Jordan had Pippen. Jordan had a three-headed monster at center with the Winningtons and Cartwrights of the world, Stacey Kings, others. Jordan had Pippen. Jordan had B.J. Armstrong. Jordan had Paxson and Steve Kerr after that and stuff like that. Where is Kawhi Leonard's help?
Just remember Joe when the Raptors win the series.
Okay, so you're just being emotional. You're not talking. Goodbye. Have a nice day. Let's go to Ronnie. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Ronnie?
Hey, Stephen, man. I feel like putting some palm trees in front of Madison Square Garden. But being hopeful, right? You know, can we get Zion? But to have the backup plan, if we do fall between 2 and 3, right? What would be your pick and why?
Easily John Morant.
John Morant.
John Morant is special. He's special in the open court. He'll be a highlight reel to a lesser degree than Zion in and of himself. He's got game. He's got heart. He's coming out of Murray State. I think that when you look at what he brings to the table, I believe in John Morant.
Yes, I agree. Over Barrett. Yes, I do.
Yes, I do. I'm not, listen, I lost a little faith in RJ and Cam Reddish even more so when Zion went down. I watched RJ. He doesn't go to his right enough. He doesn't use his right hand enough. I got concerns about him. He belongs in the NBA. He's a special talent, but he's a lefty. Reminds me a lot of Jalen Rose. He belongs in the league. He can ball, but is he going to be that superstar? I think he'll be a solid player for a long time. I'm not convinced that I see anything other than that. In the case of Cam Reddish, his build, his athleticism, it looks special. Do you remember how inconsistent he was? And they question his motor. If they're questioning your motor when you play 35 to 40 games in college basketball, what the hell are you going to do when they got to play 82 games? Now, mind you, you are in pursuit of millions, and they're questioning your motive on college campus. Okay? This is a college campus. You know how the college life is, right, bro?
Do you think it's
Stop. Did you hear my question?
Yes.
I said, you know how the college life is, right?
Yes.
You know the kind of things that motivate you when you a college athlete and you on campus and people are going gaga over you in the stands and stuff like that, right? Plus you in pursuit of millions. If you can't come ready to play for 35 games, how can I trust you for 82?
Okay. I see your point.
He can play. He's got upside. I like Cam Reddish, but he's an inconsistent shot and he was not trustworthy. I mean, this is a guy that was going to score 6 and 8 points and 2 points sometimes. Where the hell were you?
You think he should stay in college another year?
Yes, I said that. I thought he should have stayed in college another year. Be the man. Reddish is leaving. I'm sorry. R.J. Barrett is leaving. Zion Williamson is leaving. Be the man.
Yes.
But I can't knock him. I can't knock him for trying to feed his family, bro. Can't knock that. Okay? Appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Back with your calls to close out the hour before Mark Stein comes on in a minute. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, if you missed my opening segment, go check it out on demand in the Stephen A. Smith podcast, brought to you by Capital One. Capital One is reimagining banking, offering accounts with no fees or minimums that can be opened in 5 minutes. Capital One, hey, what's in your wallet? Capital One, N.A., member FDIC.
Your radio, your computer.
From an optics perspective, the Lakers knew it wouldn't look good. Jason Kidd, former DUI charge, alleged domestic violence situation, reputation, not being satisfied with just head coaching responsibilities, wanting to usurp the authorities of those above him, which doesn't get you hired in NBA circles. But here's how you also know that Jason Kidd is going to be the next head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers quick, fast, and in a hurry. He was still owed about $10 million for the Milwaukee Bucks. $10 million. So you're owed that money, ladies and gentlemen. Why would you take less to be an assistant on the bench? Unless there was this wink deal that you'd be the head coach eventually. Frank Vogel took the job to get himself $5 million to get back into the coaching ranks, to show what he can do so he can land a job outside of LA, resurrecting his career. Can't hate on that. Jason Kidd's going to be the next head coach for the Los Angeles Lakers, barring any unforeseen issues that prop up. Jason Kidd's going to be the next head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, and it's going to be inside of 2 years. Frank Vogel ain't long for this job, and it has nothing to do with him. He's not the one they wanted. He's the one they were willing to stomach because he was the one willing to put himself in position to accept the circumstances that the Lakers presented to him in order to be the head coach of their franchise. He was a head coach willing to allow them to pick his staff for him, knowing that they want Jason Kidd. And accept 3 years instead of 5 years. And accept $5 million a year instead of $6 or $7 million per year. See, the Lakers make their money off of the Lakers brand. Ballmer's already worth billions without the Clippers brand, for example. Lakers ain't rich. Lakers make their money based on what Jeannie Buss makes her money based on what the Lakers make. When it costs the Lakers money to pay somebody something, it costs Jeannie Buss. That ain't a problem Steve Ballmer has. That is the situation. That is why Frank Vogel is the head coach. That is why Jason Kidd is there, soon to be the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers within 2 years. Very, very simple.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
ESPN Radio, ESPN News coming at you live from above the Heineken River Deck at Pier 17, South Street, Seaport. Plus, need seats to a game? Download the Vivid Seats app and enter promo code CHAMPS at checkout to get 10% off your first order. Don't buy just any seat. Get a Vivid seat. Let's go to Ken. You're live with Stephen A. Real quick, Ken, go ahead.
What's going on, Stephen A? Right quick. You was pleading to the Almighty God for that pick. I was like, you remind me of your boy Spike Lee, and he was he was begging his girl, and what was that?
No. You know what? You can bring that one. I got a better one for you because I didn't like the way Spike Lee looked begging in that film that you were talking about. You know what I liked? You remember when the Cosby Show, sorry to bring him up, but remember when the Cosby Show was on the air years ago and Bill Cosby, Cliff Huxtable, was employing his son Theo. He was teaching him how to beg his girlfriend for forgiveness.
Oh, my God.
Remember that?
Not with the singing.
That was Justine. Justine. Whoa. That's what he said. Go ahead, man.
Look, right quick. I am looking forward to these finals. I'm going to put Milwaukee and Golden State in there, and I'm going to go ahead and crown the Bucks the champs, okay? And I'm going to tell you why. Because Giannis is going to foul every one of them out. Okay? I'm not really worried about prime time. They're not ready for prime time.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right. So the Milwaukee Bucks are going to win the championship because the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to foul them out, everybody out, according to Ken from Louisiana. You didn't bring up the fact that the paint is going to be crowded and they're going to force them to shoot jumpers, and against the Golden State Warriors, unlike it was against the Celtics, they actually make shots. But that remains to be seen. Hour number 2 up next, right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Stay tuned. My man Mark Stein is coming up next. Can't wait for that.
Hey, what's up? It's Will Kane. Coming up right after Stephen A. Smith. Join us on The Will Kane Show.
The Stephen A. Smith Show starts right now.
Smith Show here over the airwaves of ESPN Radio and ESPN News, 250 plus markets across the United States of America, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM, Channel 80. The number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. So make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Plus, ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Progressive's Home Quote Explorer gives you multiple quote options so you can pick what's right for you. See for yourself at progressive.com. Always my honor and privilege to have my next guest on the line. Does an outstanding job covering the NBA, has done so for many years, especially for us right here at ESPN. He's now at the New York Times. The one and only Mark Stein is on the line with us right now. What's going on, buddy? How you doing, man?
Mayor of Queens, what is up?
I'm doing all right, man. It's good to talk to you. Listen, before I even get into the upcoming competition and what we've witnessed during the playoffs, if I had to say to you, who is the team that should be praying the most to land the number one overall pick so they could get Zion Williamson more than anybody else? Who should be praying more than anybody else to get him?
You can't put one team over any. They all want him.
I know that.
How can you put one team over? You think the Knicks deserve him more than anybody else?
No, I'm just saying, who do you think should be praying more so than anybody else for him?
They're all praying. All of them. All 14.
So when
I can't put the hopes and prayers of anyone over the other 13.
How do you like this new process where they took it, in an effort to disincentivize tanking? They went from giving the team with the worst team in the league a 25% chance to giving the top three teams an equal 14% chance of now landing the number one overall pick and 40.2% to land a top three pick. What were your thoughts about that?
I actually think it's too harsh. I think it's too. I think a lot of fan bases are going to come away from this feeling really disappointed. Mm-hmm. But you know what? I think what it also means that this, we don't know the answer yet because the new lottery, it's a new lottery system and we haven't been able to judge it yet. But I think it's going to discourage. I think it is going to discourage tanking even more because teams are going to see that you really get nothing. You are guaranteed nothing and promised nothing. If you lose. I think there are going to be a lot of unhappy people tonight, a lot of disappointed people.
Mark Stein right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Speaking of tanking, how can we forget the process that took place in Philadelphia? Once upon a time, Michael Carter Williams was drafted number one. He's not there any longer. Ben Simmons is still there. Joel Embiid taking number 3 overall. He's there, obviously. You look at some Markelle Fultz drafted number 1. He's no longer there. As you reflect on the process that took place in the city of brotherly love, what are your thoughts about it, considering the fact that it's years later, based on what you're seeing right now? And what did you think about the news that Brett Brown will be staying on as the Philadelphia 76ers coach heading into his 7th season?
Well, I have to put my hand up. I certainly didn't expect it. I don't know if you saw it, but I reported over the weekend. 2 people close to that situation told me it was very unlikely he would survive a Game 7. I was wrong. I was proven wrong. Mm-hmm. Josh Harris came out and said he's keeping him. There were multiple occasions in the playoffs that Josh Harris was asked about his status and didn't back his coach, but he has now. Brett Brown is staying there. And look, the job he did, I think he deserves it the way his players backed him. I think he deserves to stay because obviously after the big trades, they didn't even have 30 games to try to get that thing together. But on the bigger question you asked about process, I think Sam Hinkie did it right. It wasn't fun, I'm sure, to take all those losses that Brett Brown had to take, but that's what GMs will tell you, that you need 3, 4, 5 cracks at it to make sure you get the right 1 or 2 players, because we don't see sure things like Patrick Ewing and David Robinson and Tim Duncan. We don't often see that in the draft anymore. Even last year's draft, we got so excited about the rookies, but it's really only a few that make, Trae Young ended up making a big difference in Atlanta as the season went on. Luka Doncic obviously had a great rookie season in Dallas, but you don't. If we see 3 or 4 rookies a year that come in and can make a year 1 impact, that was a great draft. That's where we are now. So it does take 3, 4, 5 cracks at it to get enough franchise players out of the draft. I mean, that's just the state of the modern game.
Mark Stein right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's transition to the other team within the Atlantic Division, the Boston Celtics. You saw a lot of that stuff. You were monitoring what was going on throughout the year. Terry Rozier, their backup point guard, who was starting for them in the playoffs last year when Kyrie was down. He was on First Take, my show, this morning, and said some things. Couldn't see himself staying with the Boston Celtics if things are going to remain intact. Obviously, there's a lot there that needs to be handled. When you think about what the Boston Celtics failed to live up to, who do you look at? Do you look at Kyrie? Do you look at Gordon Hayward? Do you look at Brad Stevens? Do you look at Danny Ainge? Who do you look at when you consider the fact that the Boston Celtics certainly did not measure up to the expectations?
I think Kyrie's going to come away with a big chunk of the blame, and that's also the nature of the league. The biggest names, the biggest stars. I mean, how many times does Charles Barkley tell us, fair or not, that's the way this league works? I did like the way Brad Stevens tried to put some of it on himself. And Brad Stevens said, I did a bad coaching job this year. I mean, it was mystifying to see this group just never find any semblance of chemistry. And it was amazing in the playoffs when they go to Milwaukee and they win game one and everybody said, they're fixed. All they need to do was get to the playoffs. And now they've got it. They're on. And it just imploded in 4 straight defeats. I mean, this group was a mess. And look, I think most teams would still trade places with Danny Ainge. He still has a great roster and tons of pieces to make moves. But, I mean, their immediate future is as uncertain as any team in the league. What is Kyrie Irving going to do? Do you even want him to stay if you're the Celtics? You want to move on and try to rebuild without him. I would feel good as a Celtics fan because Ainge is as good as it gets, and he deserves the benefit of the doubt, and he inspires confidence. But, I mean, it's a great question. Bob Ryan threw it out the other day. And, I mean, who is the most disappointing team in the NBA this season? Was it the Lakers or was it actually the Celtics because of all the talent they had and how far short of what they did last season they fell? I don't know the answer, but Bob thinks it's the Celtics, and I'm not sure he's wrong.
I don't think it's any question that it's the Celtics because the Lakers had some expectations, but they dissipated drastically once LeBron James went down for 17 consecutive games. In the case of the Boston Celtics, nobody went down. Kyrie was there. Gordon Hayward was there. Jason Tatum was there. Jaylen Brown was there. Al Horford was there. Marcus Morris was there. So when you look at Boston, clearly they are the ones that definitely were a bigger disappointment. From talking to the people in the league that you've talked to, what do they believe Danny Ainge should do as it pertains to Kyrie Irving, and why?
Well, I mean, Kyrie holds the cards now, so there's not. Danny's going to have to wait and see what Irving decides. But I mean, the good news is, I mean, the Celtics can still be a factor in the Anthony Davis trade sweepstakes, and I think the expectation remains that they will be. And obviously, David Griffin and Danny Ainge work together in Phoenix. They're going to have no trouble communicating. That doesn't mean David Griffin's just going to hand Anthony Davis over. I think David Griffin's made it clear he wants to try to convince Anthony Davis to give New Orleans another shot. But Boston, by virtue of the assets it has, is always going to be in the mix in trades if they want to be for whatever the best players in this league are available. Boston can get in the mix. And the biggest thing, really, I mean, Danny Ainge obviously just had a very serious health scare. I think the first thing you do is just hope he's feeling okay and that he recovers well.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is obviously going to be a really difficult offseason for them, and that was obviously a very scary episode he endured right after that series.
Yes. Mark Stein right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Mark, when you hear the names Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant coming to Madison Square Garden next season, as a guy that's covered this league for so many years the way that you have, what's the thought that comes to your mind?
I know you've been pretty strong in saying you think it's going to happen. I mean, the smoke, you cannot ignore the smoke. It's been there all season long. They're a package deal. They're going to the Knicks. Do I have firsthand knowledge that that's for sure happening? I don't. I wish I did.
Neither do I. Neither do I, Mark.
I would love to, right before the playoffs started, someone I trust very much told me, they might be a package deal, but they're going to look at the Nets just as hard as the Knicks. But again, this is third.
Well, let me say this, Mark.
Stuff.
Mark, let me interrupt. I heard that about Kyrie, not about KD. That Kyrie and his folks are trying to convince him to look heavily at the Nets. But KD and Kyrie, especially KD, wants to play with Kyrie, and they're looking forward to coming to the Garden. But it's 95%, and I was instructed, do not say 100% with anything that KD until it's done. That's what I was told.
You're bolder than me because I couldn't go 95% with this stuff. It's so hard, and look, free agency things are so fluid. And I'm telling you, I was in Houston the other night and watched the Warriors the way they celebrated. And Kevin Durant was, FaceTiming Bob Myers and other people wanting to join in on the celebration. A win like that, surviving that series without it, who knows what if the Warriors win it again, a third straight title, a fourth in 5 years. Who knows what that does to the equation? Does that somehow convince Kevin Durant to stay? I don't know the answer. Maybe he's already decided he wants to go. Maybe winning another championship makes it easier for him to leave. But I'm just saying we still have a month of playoffs left. There are a lot of variables, and these guys have the right to change their minds. And, I'm sure they're all thinking about Kawhi, Kyrie, and this is as deep a free agent class as we've had probably ever. Mm-hmm. And I think the sands are constantly shifting, honestly.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because Golden State definitely reached out to me and said, don't count us out. Don't think for 1 second that we think we're going to just lose Kevin Durant. We're certainly in a better situation than New York City. So it's going to be real interesting to see.
I'll just say this.
Okay.
That they, as a team, as a group, as a franchise, they looked as happy and unified after winning that series as I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
So, I just think we have to. Nobody wants to let it play out, but we have to let it play out.
Mark Stein right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. So let's get to some of these playoffs. First of all, we look at the Portland Trailblazers. How surprised are you that they're here in the Western Conference? They play game one tonight at the Oracle in Oakland against the Golden State Warriors, number one. And number two, how much of a player do you think they could potentially end up being in free agency, particularly in light of the run they've made?
Well, it's interesting because Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum, these guys have been crying out for front court help. And Nurkic had a great season until he got hurt. But you remember a couple off seasons ago, they were trying so hard to get Carmelo Anthony to come to Portland. Correct. And Melo didn't want to go. Right. He, for family reasons, he didn't want to be that far away from New York. And so he really wasn't interested in the Blazers. But look, the Blazers have definitely surprised me. I thought Oklahoma City was beating them in the first round. Lillard and McCollum have been fantastic. I don't think they can beat the Warriors, even if we don't see Durant and or DeMarcus Cousins until later in the series or in the finals. It still remains unclear how long those two are going to be out. I still think the Warriors have too much to, and again, after what the Warriors did to get past Houston and what that's done for them as a collective group, but I think we just saw underestimate the Blazers at your own peril. They just pulled out a game 7 on the road from double digits down. They are flying, and after where they were last season, getting swept in the first round, I think a lot of people root for Lillard and McCollum because those guys have been through a lot and they've been incredibly loyal to their team.
We just finished talking about KD and the prospects of him moving on from Golden State to another team. What about Klay Thompson?
I do not buy Klay leaving one bit.
Neither do
I. I know it's out there. I know, and look, again, even with Klay, it's probably dumb to speak in absolutes because free agency is a crazy game unto itself. And I think this season is going to be the wildest one probably that you and I have ever covered because there are so many good free agents, so much cap money sloshing around out there, and everybody's coming after these guys. But, I've spent a lot of time around the Warriors throughout this 5-year run. And I have yet to see even a hint of Klay Thompson wanting to go anywhere else. He is very comfortable here. I don't think he's going to have any trouble getting the money he wants from Joe Lacob. They know how valuable he is to the machinery here in Golden State, because the thing is, he's willing to accept the role he has. That's worth millions in itself in the NBA.
Mark, I got to tell you this. I think keeping Clay is more of a priority than keeping Kevin Durant, because they think that one way or another, Kevin Durant probably has his mind made up. Whereas with Clay, it's just a matter of making sure you don't offend him. If you've got somebody at Kevin Durant's door at 12:01, you better have somebody at Clay's door at the same time. That's the impression that I get. How accurate is that in your mind?
I agree. And I think the way the Warriors see it is Kevin Durant's going to make his own decision, and there's really nothing more that they can do. I mean, they can offer him the most money. They can offer him the best path to championships, more championships. They're moving into the new building in San Francisco, very close to where Durant has been living. So they know they can't do any more. If Kevin Durant decides he wants to play somewhere else, hey, it's his life. It's his choice. And I think the Warriors have been bracing for that now, because they kind of had to live it last year as well. So they know that. Klay Thompson leaving would be such a shock to the system here. I don't even have words for it. I mean, you can't even. He is such a part of the furniture with the Warriors. It's not even conceivable to me. I really can't imagine him in another uniform. I can't.
Mark Stein right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Before I let you get on out of here, man, let's transition to the Eastern Conference, okay? Let's look at Kawhi Leonard. Let's look at the Toronto Raptors going up against the Greek Freak. Kawhi, we were looking at him and saying 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Well, guess what? If he's playing with 1 foot out, imagine if both feet were in. He's been absolutely sensational in this postseason. Have the chances for the Toronto Raptors, based on what you're hearing, improved, or have they not, as it pertains to him staying in Toronto or departing for one of the teams in LA?
I can't say that I've heard a ton of Kawhi free agency chatter since the playoffs began. Mm-hmm. Now, going into the playoffs and all season long, all I've heard is Clippers, Clippers, Clippers. And whenever I was around the Clippers, there was a confidence coming from them that they were going to get Kawhi Leonard. I'm sure they're getting nervous in Clipperland because things are obviously going so well in Toronto now. But Kawhi Leonard no hint.
Thú hiểu nỗi trăn trở về nguồn nước ở khắp mọi nơi. Chúng tôi lấy đó làm động lực để không ngừng nghiên cứu và cho ra đời mấy lọc nước thông minh.
In league history, for us to get a little bit of emotion out of him. So there are no hints, no clues, no whispers. I would still bet on the Clippers if you're making me. But Toronto was my pick going in. I'll put my hand up again. The Bucks have surprised me. What happened to them in Game 1 in Boston, I thought was going to happen to them more in these playoffs. They got past it. They grew up in a hurry. Giannis has a head of steam. Mm-hmm. I mean, these are the two best players in the East going at it for the post-LeBron title. It's what it should be. I hope it's a long, great series.
That game was in Milwaukee when Boston beat them in Game 1, by the way. But I got to tell you something. I look at it from this perspective as it pertains to Kawhi Leonard. Toronto is a fabulous city. There's no doubt about that. But I'll tell you this much as well. You keep hearing stuff that, Magic Johnson knows the uncle and don't rule out the Los Angeles Lakers. And you know what? He wanted to leave San Antonio. It wasn't just a team. It was lifestyle. He wants to be out in Southern California. That's not what I'm seeing when I see that city of Toronto and the country of Canada embrace this kid. I think it's a legitimate shot that they might end up keeping him. But Milwaukee doesn't have to worry about that because the Greek Freak is a superstar in this game and has shown no inclination whatsoever. Not that he's a free agent or anything, but this is a guy that clearly looks completely content in staying in Milwaukee for years to come. Is that how it's looking right now, that Milwaukee is going to be the team to beat because LeBron is not in the Eastern Conference any longer?
Well, look, Giannis, I think we're safe saying, is only going to get better for at least the next few years. He's nowhere near his ceiling as a player. So if he stays in Milwaukee, just by virtue of his presence, they are going to be a force for years to come. Now, Middleton is going to be a free agent. I get the vibe from him that the Bucks are ready to put down whatever money they need to make sure he stays. That's a big win for them, obviously, if they can keep Chris Middleton and Giannis together, because Chris Middleton's a great compliment to Giannis. But yeah, the Bucks have already, to me, they were the story of the regular season, but Giannis had never won a playoff series before this season. We need to see it in the playoffs before we buy in, but they were really impressive in the Boston series, and this Toronto series looks like a coin flip to me. I picked Toronto coming into the playoffs. It wouldn't surprise me either way at this point if whoever wins the East. But as long as the Bucks can hang on to Giannis, and he's told me, he's told others through his actions, he really seems to like it there. He's embraced life there. If that holds, if he doesn't want to leave, if he wants to make that home, the Bucks aren't going anywhere.
You've got the Raptors winning this series or the Bucks?
I picked Raptors going in, and I don't change my picks, so I'm sticking with the Raptors. But do I? Am I ready to shout that from the roof of this hotel I'm in? No.
Portland, Golden State. How long do you have that series going, and who do you have winning?
I still see the Warriors winning in 5. I'm probably dipping the Blazers again. I just think the Warriors, even with the injuries, instead of people are going to say they expended so much energy to beat Houston, that's going to hurt them now. I see it the other way. Beating Houston the way they did is going to give this team a shot in the arm, and I think the Blazers are about to see a monster.
By the way, I saw you in Houston the other night. We saw Houston lose that game. We saw James Harden and CP3 lose game 5 after Kevin Durant goes down, and then lose game 6 without having to go against Kevin Durant, which is just the ultimate indictment against those guys. But to me, it's also an indictment against Mike D'Antoni. So, and not only that, you heard owner Tillman Fertitta go off after the game. What do you think the fallout is going to be in Houston? What do you think it should be?
Well, look, I went into that game just like you and everybody else thinking Houston has to be blasted if they blow it. If they don't at least take this to a game 7, it's a huge failure. There's no Durant here. They have no excuse. It's the total inverse of what we saw the previous year when the Rockets won game 5 but lost Chris Paul, immediate chance to atone, and they couldn't do it. But, with a little bit of distance, I've come away from it. I actually have a piece that's coming out later today about this in my newsletter about the Rockets. Look, they're going up against a historically great team, and I think that has to be factored in. Harden, I didn't agree with a lot of things that were said at the podium and that were said post-game, but Harden said, not losing in those scrubs, and he's right. This is, in my time covering the league, the best team I've ever covered in a quarter century. I think they're going to win a 4th title in 5 years, and the Rockets are the only team out there that have tried to challenge these guys. They've tried to keep making moves to compete with them. They're not trying to wait out the Warriors dynasty. They're not trying to wait out Durant leaving. This loss was bad. They blew it after game 1 with all the complaining about the refereeing. They certainly squandered a huge opportunity by not winning that game 6. But I don't think they're being roasted now, and I think it's a little bit too much.
Yeah.
You gotta factor in how good Golden State is.
Yeah, but I also get to factor in how good Mike D'Antoni is not on the defensive side of the ball, because they're going to get any stops. Giving up 33 points to Steph Curry in the second half, I think that's a bit too much. Even with Steph Curry's greatness, still, you got to find a way to stop the bleeding. That's the only thing for me.
D'Antoni's got no shortage of skeptics, but I am in the complete opposite camp. He was an offensive revolutionary in Phoenix.
That's true.
And I think he didn't get his just due then because they had to deal with San Antonio, but he has completely changed his style. He's shown he's way more versatile than anyone gave him credit for.
Okay.
He completely junked Phoenix, embraced one-on-one players, and the Rockets, no matter what we think of them today, They're closer to a title than they've been since Olajuwon was there. And I think Mike D'Antoni's a big part of it.
You know what, Mark? That's a fair assessment. That really is fair towards Mike D'Antoni. I can't deny that. No question about it, man. I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Mark Stein, take care of yourself. Keep up the great work throughout these NBA playoffs. Keep doing that great work for the New York Times, buddy. You know I miss you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, bro.
All right. One and only Mark Stein right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. 888-SAY-ESPN. That is the number to call right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, people, I'm here to tell you about Zelle, a quick and easy way to send and receive money right from your banking app. Not sure what to get someone for their birthday, graduation, or housewarming? Send them money with Zelle, a truly one-size-fits-all present so they can buy what. I want to let you know something right here, right now. Joel Embiid and those tears you saw him streaming down his face and that pain you saw sifting through his body like that, it may end up being the best thing that ever happened to you. You see, to me, Joel Embiid, and it's not to disrespect him in any way, but to me, Joel Embiid became a man last night. Because let me tell you something right now. Ain't no more airplane flyings, joking around, chirping. When you lose a game 7 and you lose it in that magnitude with Kawhi Leonard drilling a jumper over you that bounced in and out of the rim and then into the rim. About 3 or 4 bounces. Let's count them right here. He goes up, clock 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 bounces. And then goes into the rim to win the series. To win the series. Let me tell y'all something right now. That's some pain that is not going to leave Joel Embiid for a very, 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 very long time. And when he comes back on the court next year and he's playing, he's going to remember every aching moment. And when that happens, ladies and gentlemen, could you imagine a monster, a beast like Joel Embiid? And I say that obviously complimentary. Could you imagine him even more focused? How he'll be if he's healthy? If I'm the 76ers, I leave this man alone. I make sure, work on his knees, work on his back, get him as close to 100% as you can possibly get him in the best condition of his life, and then unleash him. Because nobody can stop Joel Embiid. Nobody can stop him. And what you're going to see with Joel Embiid is a man on a mission coming back. I think it's going to be to the benefit of the Philadelphia 76ers. Make no mistake about it. And I think it is something that would bode very, very well for them moving forward.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and you can always get in touch with the show.
ESPN News is being brought to you by Barbasol. Hey, sports fans, Barbasol is offering you a chance to score big when you join the Barbasol Shave Club. Grab your premium starter kit for just $1.99 today with code SHAVE at Barbasol.com. Plus, you know what never goes out of style? Surprising a friend or loved one with buy one, get one free multicolored rose bouquets for $29.99 from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. I got a call on the line, and damn it, I'm upset at them. Look, when you know something, when you are sitting there and you're a best-selling author, the book of basketball from back in 2009, when you got Any Given Wednesday, you got a big-time podcast, you're as big-time as my next caller, okay? You're not just a caller. You're a guest. You don't just call it. You got to give me a heads up. Make sure I got more time for you than I actually have today. Mr. Bill Simmons, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Listen, I'm always available. All you have to do is just text me. I am driving around Southern California. I was listening to your show. I was listening to you talk to Mark Stein, and I was thinking, you know what? I got to call in. This is such an important day. This is, I know they only have a 14% chance. I get it. But, you know, they had a 14% chance in 1985 when they got Ewing. I think it was like 14.6. And it would be so damn fun if the Knicks won the lottery I can't stop thinking about it. I'm a Celtics fan.
That's what I was getting ready to say, Bill. I was getting ready to say, when the hell did you start rooting for the Knicks? Why should I? Hold on, Bill Simmons. Why should I trust you? You're a Bostonian. You love the Celtics. I mean, you live, eat, and breathe the Celtics. Why should I trust you? If anything, you could be calling into this show to try and jinx the Knicks, Bill Simmons.
No. So here's the thing. I love basketball. And having the Knicks basically throw away 2 straight decades in the 21st century, nobody wins with that. This hasn't been fun. It's not fun to just not have a franchise in New York, which is basically where we are, where you have these fans that are so beaten down at this point that, I shouldn't feel sorry for an entire basketball fan base. And that's kind of where I am. So you think like today, all the things that could flip, where you have the Knicks would have hope again. New York would have a star again. We'd have New York Celtics back. We'd have, the new MJ basically on the East Coast. All these things would be great. It doesn't really matter where he goes, because I think we've learned in the 21st century, you can become a star in Milwaukee, you can become a star in Oklahoma City, you can become a star in Cleveland. I get it. He can go anywhere, and that team's going to become fun to watch. But bringing the Knicks back, I think only he could do it, or Durant. And if you put them on the same team together, now I'm scared.
Here's the thing, Bill. Do you think, even though the NBA is thriving, no matter what and what have you, we all know that there's been a ratings dip to some degree with LeBron being out west, in terms of the East Coast ratings and what have you. When you think about Zion Williamson, clearly he's going to be a plus no matter where he goes. But what does it do for the NBA in your eyes if he ended up in New York as opposed to LA or even Chicago? What do you think it does for the game?
I think that I've heard the Chicago thing as well. I just don't think you can even compare New York and Chicago, because here's the thing with New York. No matter how bad they are year after year, there's always a guy who comes into the league who's really good, who everybody gets excited about. And it doesn't become official until they come to MSG and they're playing the Knicks and they're in front of those fans. It happened with Doncic. It happened with Giannis. It's like the final test of, this guy's going to be somebody. Oh, now he gets to play in New York, and this is now a thing. And if you could have that energy that you have just when that game happens, and you have that now 41 games a year, plus all the playoff games. I mean, look, those Jordan Bulls games in 92, 93 were some of the best playoff games we've had in the last 40 years, and partly because of the energy of those fans. I still think it's an amazing place to play. And, you talk about generations, where you have the Knicks and the Celtics, or the two teams that have been around basically since 1946. And they have fans that are like 80, 85, 90 years old. My friend William Goldman just died. He never got to see another Knicks title after 1973.
Yeah.
So you have generations from age 6 to age 90 who, really care about this team. And I just think, like, to throw that away for 20 years with the owner they have, these guys need a break. So I'm rooting for it. I also think it'll be really fun if you went to Atlanta, though, because, there's definitely a cultural renaissance going on down there.
Yeah.
What's going on with music, and just something's happening down there. And if you put Zion in the middle of all of that, I really think that could
with Trae Young.
Those would be my top choices.
With Trae Young. Let's not forget with Trae Young now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And a team that they have some young assets. I don't think they're that far away. I think they were like 23-30 down the stretch last year. So you add him to that, I think that would be fun. But, the only team, I don't want to see teams like Phoenix get rewarded.
Neither do I. Neither do I. Or Cleveland.
Or Cleveland. All decade.
Or Cleveland. They already had LeBron.
Yeah.
All right. Hey,
I don't want to see teams get rewarded who just stunk.
Bill, before I let you get on out of here, I'd be remiss in neglecting to bring up your Boston Celtics, sir. They bowed out ungracefully, I might add, in the second round against Milwaukee. Real quickly for me, tell me your thoughts about what you think happened and what you think should happen with the Boston Celtics moving forward.
I heard all your points about don't be so quick to blame this on Kyrie. Look,
just not him. He's not blameless. He's not blameless. I didn't say that. He definitely has some culpability here. Just not all on him. That's all I said. But go ahead.
Look, sometimes a basketball team just doesn't work when you throw the players together.
Gotcha.
And it doesn't make sense. I think it's one of the things we love about basketball. Sometimes a team comes together, you don't know what happens. Sometimes a team doesn't come together, you don't know what happens. Mm-hmm. In this case, Kyrie talked a lot about being a leader, being the guy, wanting his own team, wanting to be the guy in the moment, in the playoffs, and he just didn't back any of it up. And he was a terrible leader, and he caused a lot of problems all year. This was a really deeply unhappy team, and the biggest reason was him. It's that he wasn't the only reason, but it was the biggest reason, and this is what he wanted 2 years ago when he pushed for the trade. He wanted his own team. He wanted to be the guy, and he was terrible at it. And what we learned is that he shouldn't be the guy. Maybe he could be the second best guy. Maybe he can be the 1B to Durant's 1A, but he's not the guy. And we learned it, and the way he reacted, even in that Milwaukee series and then afterwards, it was like it just bounced off him. And you watch that, you compare it to people like Embiid and Simmons after that Philly series where they're just devastated. And Kyrie was the opposite. It was like he was ready to start his vacation. I think he needs to go, personally. I would not be excited if he came back.
Bill Simmons, appreciate you, man. I got to have you back on here when I have more time to give you. I don't have no problems with that. You got the ringer. You got everything, man. And by the way, you do understand that you and we're partners in one of the biggest lies in all of sports. Bill Simmons and Stephen A. doesn't get along. We've gotten along for years. I got profound respect for you. I got profound respect for you, my brother. I'm honored that you called up to the show.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Take it easy, my man. We'll definitely do that hour together. You can book it. Bill Simmons and Stephen A. That ain't bad combo. Ain't bad combo at all. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Man just called in. Call in anytime. He's Bill Simmons, damn it. Okay? End of discussion. Oh, by the way, the NBA playoffs are on ESPN Radio, presented by Indeed. Tune in tonight for Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals as Curry and the Warriors host Lillard and the Blazers. Coverage begins at 8 p.m. Eastern on most ESPN radio stations. Also, when you're hiring, you don't want to waste time sorting through dozens of irrelevant resumes, do you? You want an efficient way to get to a short list of qualified candidates. That's why you need Indeed.com. Post a job in minutes, set up screening questions based on your job requirements, then zero in on qualified candidates using an intuitive online dashboard. Discover why 3 million businesses use Indeed for hiring. Post a job today at Indeed.com/hire. Search for greatness. Search Indeed. Your call to close out the show in a minute.
Your radio, your computer.
From an optics perspective, the Lakers knew it wouldn't look good. Jason Kidd, former DUI charge, alleged domestic violence situation, reputation, not being satisfied with just head coaching responsibilities, wanting to usurp the authorities of those above him, which doesn't get you hired in NBA circles. But here's how you also know that Jason Kidd is going to be the next head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers quick, fast, and in a hurry. He was still owed about $10 million for the Milwaukee Bucks. $10 million. So you're owed that money, ladies and gentlemen. Why would you take less to be an assistant on the bench? Unless there was a wink deal that you'd be the head coach eventually. Frank Vogel took the job to get himself $5 million to get back into the coaching ranks, to show what he can do so he can land a job outside of LA, resurrecting his career. Can't hate on that. Jason Kidd's going to be the next head coach for the Los Angeles Lakers, barring any unforeseen issues that prop up. Jason Kidd's going to be the next head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, and it's going to be inside of 2 years. Frank Vogel ain't long for this job. It has nothing to do with him. He's not the one they wanted. He's the one they were willing to stomach because he was the one willing to put himself in position to accept the circumstances that the Lakers presented to him in order to be the head coach of their franchise. He was a head coach willing to allow them to pick his staff for him, knowing that they want Jason Kidd. And accept 3 years instead of 5 years. And accept $5 million a year instead of $6 or $7 million per year. See, the Lakers make their money off of the Lakers brand. Ballmer's already worth billions without the Clippers brand. For example. Lakers ain't rich. Lakers make their money based on what Jeannie Buss makes her money based on what the Lakers make. When it costs the Lakers money to pay somebody something, it costs Jeannie Buss. That ain't a problem Steve Ballmer has. That is the situation. That is why Frank Vogel is the head coach. That is why Jason Kidd is there, soon to be the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers within 2 years. Very, very simple.
Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
If you missed any of the show today, go check it out on demand in the Stephen A. Smith Podcast, brought to you by Capital One. Capital One is reimagining banking, offering accounts with no fees or minimums that can be opened in 5 minutes. Capital One. Hey, what's in your wallet? Capital One NA, member FDIC. La Portia, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, real quick, please.
Yes, hi, Steve. Hey, I would like to know if the Bulls could draft John Moran. Do you think he'd be a good fit?
I think anybody would be a good fit for the Chicago Bulls because they don't have much. I like marketing. I like Zach LaVine. As far as I'm concerned, everybody else, do whatever you got to do with them. John Morant in the backcourt with Zach LaVine, I would like that. Wouldn't bother me one bit. We'll see.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Randall, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick, go.
Yeah, why not Zion to D.C.? You always wanted these big market teams, star players and everything. Why not Zion to D.C.?
Let me say this to you. I feel a lot better about the Wizards if John Wall was 100% along with Bradley Beal. The problem is John Wall was injured, and then after that, he got injured in his home. He slipped on something. Okay, so the likelihood is that he may be out, for half, if not more, of next season. And so when you look at it from that perspective and the fact that he's just got a max deal at $170 million plus, okay, and they're so tied up, they don't have but so much to do. When you look at it, you just say to yourself, okay, Zion and DC definitely need a post presence, definitely a plus. Of course, everybody needs them. Of course, DC would be one of those teams, but we'd be thinking much more highly about the Wizards if John Wall were healthy than him being in the situation he is right now, bro.
Who's going to get the GM job for us?
Tim Connolly, probably the guy in Denver. He's going to be your new president of basketball operations. The belief is that he's already reached an agreement. They haven't announced it. They're waiting to. He might be trying to milk some more money out of Denver. But in the event that doesn't happen, he's going to be in the nation's capital, and he will be your new president of basketball operations. That's what I'm told.
And you think that he's going to keep Bradley Beal?
Yes. I think Bradley Beal is your franchise player right now. It's all you got. John Wall's hurt, remember? Got to get on out of here, but I'll be back in 22 hours. I am praying for the Knicks. Hopefully they will be answered. Talk to you tomorrow.
Hey, what's up? It's Will Kane. Coming up right after Stephen A. Smith. Join us on the